go up there and get it. And that's kind of like what he thinks your story is with brain. Your brain thinks with stories. So he invented this thing called the story matrix. The good news is there's no app to download. It's just a spreadsheet. Okay? And all of you know how to do a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet has 4 columns. 4, that's it. You want to keep track of your success stories, your failure stories, fun stories, and legend stories. Now, according to Craig, legend stories mean one thing, but according to my story matrix, I use it for a different reason. And you know what? It's totally okay, because I'm not working for Craig or pitching his stuff. Legend column could be stories that are legendary that you use in your business to illustrate some point you're trying to make with your audience. To me, legendary stories are things like when I met Guy Kawasaki and he came to my talk and he live streamed my talk on his Facebook feed about 2 weeks after Facebook released live. That's a true story, brother. And that's in my legend column. Because I had 12,000 people watch that video in like 48 hours. So the role labels, you pick. But let me give you some suggestions. As entrepreneurs, you'll want these. You'll have customer stories, investor stories, mentor, sales, pitch, and of course, me stories. And then how do you use it? Well, that's up to you, but here's one suggestion. When you have a story, go to that column, go to that row, put the date, a few words that'll remind you when you look at it 3 months from now or 6 months from now. When you look at it, you'll remember that story, that's all. That's it. And then you do it again, and again, and again, and you keep doing it. You keep updating it until it's too full. Then create another one. Just keep adding to it. Have everyone on your management team keep their own story matrix. And then if you get the unfortunate invitation to go to FailCon, have you heard of FailCon? It's TED for failure. You get to go up in front of people and talk for 15 minutes about how you failed. It's a great conference. It costs like $3,000 to sit in the seats. Well, you just go to your column called failure, and if you do a good job keeping track of all of your challenges, failures, and whatnot in your business, you'll have so much to talk about, you won't know what to pick. Another reason having all these stories at your fingertips is when an investor says something like, so tell me about one of the most challenging times in your business. You don't have to think too hard. You've got them in your mind. You know, oh, I've got all those stories. Which one should I tell them? Well, I have 3 customer stories I can share with you right now. Let me share one of them, and if you want more, I have more. Okay. Stories, stories, stories. Now, when you have 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to tell your stories or story, how many words can you get out of your mouth in those 5 minutes? Well, let's make it simpler. It's getting late. How many words can you get out of your mouth in 1 minute? 200. You would be speaking very fast. The average person speaks somewhere between 120 and 140 words per minute. So if you have a 2-minute presentation and you key in your Word document, you look at the properties menu and you have 1,000 words in there, you're a little over. You don't have to even bother testing it. Most of my clients, before they know this formula, they'll write it out and then time it, and it's always over. Always over. I can defocus a script and tell you about how long it's going to take. I just look back and say, oh, single space, you moved your margins out to the side, I see, so you went down to 1/2-inch margins instead of 1 inch. That's a 5-minute talk on that one page, and you have 3 of them. Things take a lot longer to say than you really think they do. Okay, a couple of tips on storytelling, and then I want to move into a structure that you can use when pitching investors. The first 10 seconds of your storytelling is when people decide if they're going to listen to the rest of that story. So don't waste our time. Don't say, well, I'm going to share some stories with you here tonight. And the first story I want to tell you about is when I was growing up on Long Island. It's like you just wasted like 9 seconds. So just start telling the story like they do at the TED Talks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So when I was growing up on Long Island, and now everybody's listening, it's all it takes. Most of you are overthinking storytelling. How many of you here have not seen, please be honest, have not seen the talk on TED called How Great Leaders Inspire Action by Simon Sinek? You have not seen this. This is your homework. Please do not go to sleep tonight without watching this talk. Go to TED, search on Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. It has something like 24 million views. I don't want to spend any time tonight on it because I've got a whole lot more I want to share with you. But if you're looking for the perfect story arc, you want to separate yourself from the masses about the way you talk about your companies, your products, and your services, that talk will change you in an instant. Most of you start with what you do. And investors don't really care. They care more about why you're doing what you're doing.
What's the name of the talk?
It's called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. Just search on his name, it'll be easier. Simon Sinek. And he also has a book called Start With Why. If you watched his talk and loved what he said, which is all backed by research, it's not hearsay. This is real research and scientifically backed. If you like what you hear in that talk, you really need to get the book, because that book will give you a three-dimensional view of what you listen to in the video. That's about all I can say about it right now. And then finally, when it comes to storytelling, and these 5-minute pitches and 3-minute pitches that you have, don't waste people's time giving them the movie. No one's interested in going to your movie in day one and meeting one. Just give them the movie trailer version of your business. Why do we have movie trailers in the world? For one simple reason, to help you decide whether or not to the movie, right? That's what you need to be doing in those first meetings. Don't give them the movie. Make them want to go to the movie, or make them say no. I don't watch slasher movies, but I have a friend that loves them. Would you like to meet him? Right? Okay. So now I want to finish up with your pitch decks, because there's a big talk about this. So for many years, I felt that there was no structure that I could come up with. Frankly, I've not pitched investors, but I've worked with lots of people who have. And I was looking in the early days for a structure that would make it easy on all of you to come up with some kind of prescriptive structure to help you with the deck. And I looked and looked and looked for a few days, and I found one from Guy Kawasaki. If you pitch to the Garage Technology Ventures company, be sure you read his blog post called 10-20-30. Okay, 10-20-30. If you go to pitch to Guy Kawasaki and you have more than 10 slides, he's going to shut you down. If you try to pitch for more than 20 minutes, he's going to shut you down. And if you have any text on any slide that's smaller than 30 points, he's going to shut you down. Literally. That's 10 slides, 20 minutes to present it, and 30-point font minimum. Okay? And it's a little bit, it works for him. So then I found Sequoia Capital. They have a blog post on their website. 10 slides. They tell you what order to deliver them in. If you go in there and deliver a deck in a different order, you run the risk of delivering information in a way that they do not think. So if they give you a formula, you might as well go with it. For everybody who doesn't have a formula, I found David Rose. He's a billionaire in New York who's had several exits. He's raised lots of money. He's not a billionaire, I'm sorry. He's raised billions of dollars. I should be fair about that. And he gave a TED Talk in 2007 on the top qualities that investors look for in people like you. What do you think the top quality is that investors look for in entrepreneurs? Number one quality. Anybody want to guess? Passion? No. Attitude? No. Well, you're close. Persistence? No. The reason why they didn't know? The number one quality, according to David, is are you coachable or not? All that other stuff is great, but he finishes with, and now I'm going to share with you the one thing that investors look for more than anything else in you is are you coachable? You don't have to take everything they say and do what they say, but you need to be open-minded, and that's kind of what he's saying there. He also came up with GUST, right? So you probably have heard of GUST. If not, that's probably where you need to be looking. So I took David's 13 slides, and I started using that as a structure. It works beautifully. And you want to do it in this order. You notice slide number 3. It's not slide number 13. Like many of you. And it works, but what I have found in the last 3 years is this is too much information for the first meeting. It's just too much. For a second meeting, third meeting, yes. You'll have to answer questions related to all these 13 slides in your first meeting, but you don't need a full 13 slide deck on meeting number 1. It's just too much. So I have a way around this. First of all, if you want to learn about those 13 slides, you can go to my website, nathangold.com. There's a video there called How to Pitch to Investors with 13 slides in under 10 minutes. There's another one on how to pitch to investors in under 2 minutes with no slides. They're both free, no charge, 27 minutes long, so you gotta have some time. It's long by internet standards, but it's literally, here's slide 1, here's what you can do. Here's slide 2, here's what you can do. Here's slide 3, and so forth. But I don't want to spend any time on that tonight because it's not that it's old, it's that you don't need all of that for the first meeting, all of those slides. What I'm here to share with you now is a magic way of turning a monologue into a dialogue. And that way you don't have to stand up there and go blah, 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 until they fall asleep with their eyes open. I call it the 5Q framework. The 5Q framework. This is mine, actually, and I claim it. And it comes from just working with thousands of people like you who are prepared for the 13 slides. You come back from that meeting and say, you know what, I never got through all 13 slides. 95% of the people that I've worked with 13 slides, they don't get through slide 4 before a dialogue starts happening. So why not let's short circuit the whole thing? And I've tested this for almost 3 years now, and I can tell you it works. Here we go. Question number 1. You need to just answer 5 questions. You can walk into an office of an investor now, after I show you these 5 questions, and say this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I've come here prepared to do 3 things for you. 1, I have a 5-minute overview presentation. I have a demo I can give you, or we can just have a talk. What would you like to do? And most people are now saying, give me that 5-minute quick overview. And here they are. Question number 1. You must answer the question of, what is the problem you are solving or the unmet need that you are filling? Okay. Now, when you hear other mentors, and I won't name names, you're going to hear somebody stand up on a stage like this one day and say, there's a lot of pitch coaches out there that say, start with the problem. That's wrong. You should not start with the problem. Okay. Maybe that's how they do things, but I can tell you, this is not me. I have interviewed angel after angel after angel after angel after VC, and I say, you know what? What's the first thing you typically want to hear from an entrepreneur? I say, you know, if they don't tell me what the problem is they're solving, everything else is out of context. Even telling me about you and your team before you tell me about the problem is slightly too early. You need to get my attention. What's the problem you're solving? It's either a problem or an unmet need, right? So what is it? By the way, what I'm sharing with you here, these 5 questions can be used not just for a 3-minute pitch or a 5-minute pitch, but the first 3 questions can be used for a 30-second elevator pitch. If you have a minute, you can get through all 5. If you have 90 seconds, then you can get through all 5 for easy. The second thing on the mind of the investor is, if I don't recognize you, and I've never heard of you before, and you haven't been on the front cover of Forbes magazine or covered in the Wall Street Journal or Financial Times, could you please help me understand why I should believe anything else you say? Could you just establish a tiny bit of credibility with me? Tell me something that I can feel good, that whatever you tell me, I can feel confident about what you're saying. Most entrepreneurs leave that to the end, or they don't cover it at all. And I can tell you, if you leave your team to the end and you have a rock star team, or you have some real solid people, you know, if you would have told me you're I keep using a medical doctor, but if you would have told me you had a PhD in biomechanics, I probably would have believed everything you said instead of half of what you said. Right? So you don't want to try to make up for lost time. Establish your credibility quickly. At least your credibility. You don't have to tell people all about your team and your advisors and your friends and relatives and all of that kind of stuff. It's just, who are you? Why should I believe you? Simple. One answer, 1 sentence, 2 sentences. The third is the solution. What's the world like you? What's the world like with you? And what's the world like without you? And this is where you talk about